It's just different. It's just different now.
He's always like frustrated when you don't do it the way he wants you. And eventually you just become like, can you bring me this tool? Or can you hold the flashlight?
You think you've seen family drama on TV, but nothing prepares you for the moment a father forgets his own daughter's birthday. Picture Savannah sitting by her phone, waiting for a call that never comes. Or Truly, quietly realizing her dad's attention has shifted somewhere else, and she's no longer part of his world. These aren't just awkward moments or misunderstandings. This is the kind of heartbreak that changes a kid forever. It's not just about missed calls or forgotten holidays. It's about a pattern of being left behind, of watching your dad pour all his love and energy into someone else's kids while you fade into the background. The Brown family was supposed to be about unity, about love multiplied, not divided. But what we've seen is a family breaking apart, with Kody at the center, making choices that leave some of his own children feeling invisible. Hi, friends. I'm Helena, and you're watching TLC's Sister Wives News. If you care about the truth behind the headlines, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit subscribe and let me know in the comments. Do you think Kody's actions are forgivable, or is this the ultimate betrayal? Because what happened to Savannah and Truly will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this family. When the Browns packed up their lives in Las Vegas and headed for Flagstaff, it was supposed to be a fresh start. Kody painted this move as a chance for the family to come together, to build their dream homes side by side on a big piece of land, and finally live as one united family. The wives tried to believe it. Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robin all stood on that empty property, imagining a future where their kids would grow up together, where holidays would be filled with laughter, and where the old wounds from Vegas would finally heal. There was hope, even excitement, as they looked out over those acres and pictured a new chapter. But the reality hit fast and hard. Instead of unity, the move to Flagstaff exposed every crack in the family's foundation. The wives found themselves living farther apart than ever, not just physically, but emotionally. The dream of building together stalled almost immediately. Money became a constant source of stress. The land sat empty, and the promise of new homes faded into endless arguments and confusion. Kody's vision started to look less like a plan and more like a way to keep everyone guessing, never quite sure where they stood. Christine and Janelle, who had always tried to make the best of things, started to feel the distance growing. Christine, once the glue holding everyone together, felt more isolated with every passing month. Janelle, practical and patient, watched as her own relationship with Kody became strained and uncertain. The move that was supposed to bring the Browns closer only pushed them further apart, setting the stage for heartbreak, resentment, and the unraveling of everything they'd built together. Kody always talked about family as a team, but when it came to money and property, he played by his own rules. After the move to Flagstaff, the dream of building 4 homes on Coyote Pass quickly turned into a nightmare of paperwork, shifting promises, and endless waiting. Kody insisted on complicated property divisions, asking the wives to sign over their shares, shuffle names on deeds, and trust that he had everyone's best interests at heart. But the more signatures he collected, the more control he gained, and the less say the other wives had in their own futures. Christine was the first to feel the sting. She'd invested her heart and her savings into the family, but when she wanted out, she realized her name was barely on anything that mattered. The property she thought she owned was suddenly up for grabs, and Kody's approval was the only way forward. Janelle, who had always been careful with money, found herself in a similar bind. She'd put her own resources into the family's shared dream. But when the dream started to crumble, she was left with little security and a lot of unanswered questions. The finances were a maze, and Kody seemed to hold the only map. Meanwhile, Robin's position grew stronger. She became the legal wife, the one with the clearest financial ties to Kody. When Mary agreed to divorce Kody so he could marry Robin for legal reasons, it was supposed to be a technicality. But it changed everything. Robin's influence over Kody's decisions became obvious, especially when it came to money and property. The other wives watched as resources flowed toward Robin's household, while their own needs were put on hold or ignored. The confusion over who owned what, who paid for what, and who would get what in the end created a constant sense of instability. The wives were left feeling powerless, their futures tied to decisions they didn't make and couldn't control. Kody's financial maneuvering didn't just protect his interests, it isolated Christine, Janelle, and Mary, and made it clear that the family's unity was an illusion. The real power was shifting, and everyone could feel it. Robin entered the Brown family as the hopeful new addition, but it didn't take long for her presence to change the entire dynamic. At first, she worked hard to win over Mary, knowing that Mary's legal marriage to Kody was a barrier to her own security. When Mary agreed to divorce Kody so he could legally marry Robin, it was framed as a selfless act for the good of the family, especially to help Robin's children. But that decision shifted the balance of power in ways no one could have predicted. Robin became the legal wife, and with that came a new level of influence over Kody's choices: financial, emotional, and practical. On screen, Robin often played the peacemaker, but behind the scenes, her bond with Kody grew stronger while her connections with the other wives grew weaker. She and Kody started making decisions as a unit, sometimes without even consulting the rest of the family. The other wives noticed. Christine, who had always been the family's cheerleader, started to feel like an outsider in her own home. Janelle, who valued fairness and open communication, found herself left out of key conversations. Even Mary, who had sacrificed so much, realized her relationship with Kody was now more distant than ever. Robin's influence became especially clear during family meetings about property and finances. She was always at Kody's side, her opinions carrying more weight than anyone else's. When disagreements came up, Kody often sided with Robin, leaving the other wives frustrated and unheard. The show captured moments where Robin's needs and concerns seemed to take priority, whether it was about moving schedules, money for her home, or decisions about the kids. As the seasons went on, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Robin's household was thriving while Christine and Janelle's families were struggling. The emotional gap widened, and the sense of sisterhood that once defined the Browns faded into polite distance. Robin's central role wasn't just about being Kody's favorite. It was about slowly, strategically becoming the only wife whose voice truly mattered. The others were left to watch as their place in the family slipped away, one decision at a time. Savannah and Truly's stories are some of the most heartbreaking parts of the Brown family's unraveling. These aren't just background kids in a big family. They're daughters who once looked up to their dad, only to find themselves pushed aside as the spotlight shifted to someone else's household. The cameras caught it all, and if you've watched the show, you know these moments weren't just editing tricks. They were real, raw, and painful. Savannah, Janelle's youngest, used to be the kind of kid who lit up when her dad walked in the room, but as the seasons rolled on, that spark faded. There's a scene that sticks with fans. Savannah's birthday comes and goes, and Kody doesn't even call. No text, no visit, not even a quick check-in. Janelle tries to keep things upbeat for her daughter, but you can see the disappointment in Savannah's eyes. She's old enough to know what's happening. She's not just missing a phone call, she's missing her dad. And it's not a one-time thing. The distance grows, and Kody's absence becomes the new normal. Janelle, who's always tried to shield her kids from the worst of the family drama, can't hide the truth anymore. Her daughter is hurting, and there's nothing she can do to fix it. Truly's story is just as tough to watch. Christine's youngest was once the baby everyone doted on, but as Kody's attention shifted to Robin's kids, Truly faded into the background. There's barely any footage of Kody spending real time with her. No father-daughter outings, no bedtime stories, just a growing silence. When Christine finally decides to leave, Kody suddenly wants to talk about custody and parenting plans. But the damage is already done. Truly knows her dad hasn't been there for her, and Christine is left to pick up the pieces. She's the one comforting. Truly explaining why her dad isn't around, trying to fill the gap left by Kody's absence. Meanwhile, Robin's children get a completely different version of Kody's. He's present, affectionate, and involved. He's at every milestone, every holiday, every family dinner. The contrast is impossible to ignore. Savannah and Truly watch from the sidelines as their dad becomes the father they wish they had, but only for someone else's kids. The impact is deep and lasting. Both girls have to grow up faster, learning to cope with disappointment and rejection before they're even out of high school. Their mothers, Janelle and Christine, carry the guilt and frustration of watching their daughters get left behind, knowing there's nothing they can do to force Kody to care. The emotional neglect isn't just a subplot, it's the real tragedy at the heart of the Brown family's story. The Brown kids never had a typical childhood, but as the family started to fracture, their lives became even more complicated. The older siblings, like Logan, Aspen, and Maddie, grew up in the early days of the family's polygamous experiment. They remember when the family felt like a team, when holidays meant everyone under one roof and the idea of sister wives was more than just a title. They saw the good and the bad, but at least there was a sense of unity. As the cracks widened, these older kids became the unofficial counselors, the ones their younger siblings turned to when things got rough. They watched their parents' relationships fall apart and tried to keep the peace even as they started their own lives. The middle kids, like Garrison, Gabriel, and Isabel, were caught in the crossfire. They were old enough to see the favoritism and the shifting alliances, but too young to escape it. Garrison and Gabriel, for example, openly struggled with Kody's absence and his new priorities. Their frustration boiled over on camera, especially during the pandemic, when Kody's strict rules kept him at Robin's house and away from everyone else. Isabel's story is especially painful. She needed major surgery for her scoliosis, but Kody hesitated to travel with her, worried about being away from Robin and her kids. Isabel's on-screen confession about feeling abandoned by her dad is one of the most gut-wrenching moments in the series. Then there are the youngest, like Solomon and Ariella, who have only ever known the fractured version of the family. For them, Kody is always present, always involved, but their world is much smaller. They don't have the same connection to their older siblings or the broader family. Their experience of plural marriage is nothing like what the older kids had. The family's original vision, one big, loving, interconnected group, has faded. Instead, the kids are left with divided loyalties, lost connections, and a sense that their childhoods were shaped by choices they never made. The show's confessions and candid moments reveal just how much the kids have lost and how deep the wounds really go. Kody and Robin have always been quick to use religion as both a shield and a spotlight. From the very first season, Kody talked about his faith as the reason for living plural marriage, insisting it was about spiritual growth and eternal family. But as the years went on, the way they used religion started to feel less about belief and more about image. When things got tough, Kody would lean into religious language, framing his decisions as God's will or a test of faith, even when those choices clearly hurt his wives and kids. Robin, too, often spoke about the importance of sister wives and the spiritual necessity of their lifestyle, but her actions rarely matched her words. There are moments on the show that make this contradiction impossible to ignore. Take the scenes where Robin insists she wants a close relationship with the other wives, only to pull away and build her own separate household. Or the times Kody claims he's treating everyone fairly while spending nearly all his time at Robin's house. During the pandemic, Kody justified his absence from Janelle and Christine's homes by saying he was following God's guidance and protecting the family, but viewers saw the reality. He was choosing comfort and control over connection. The show itself became a tool for shaping public perception. In interviews and confessionals, Kody and Robin would present a united front, downplaying conflict and rewriting history to fit their narrative. When fans pointed out inconsistencies, like Robin's changing stories about her relationship with the other wives, or Kody's shifting explanations for his choices, the couple rarely addressed them directly. Instead, they doubled down on their version of events, using the platform of reality TV to maintain their image. The result is a carefully curated story that often clashes with what viewers actually see on screen, leaving fans to wonder what's real and what's just for show. Christine, Janelle, and Mary spent years trying to make the plural marriage work, sacrificing their own happiness for the sake of the family. But as Kody's attention shifted and the cracks in the family grew wider, each woman started to reclaim her own life. Christine was the first to take a stand. She realized she deserved more than a marriage without love or respect, and when she finally left, it was like a weight lifted. Fans watched her move to Utah, start fresh with her kids, and rediscover her confidence. Her smile came back, and so did her sense of purpose. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. Janelle followed her own path, focusing on her children and her own financial independence. She spoke openly about the freedom she felt once she stopped waiting for Kody to show up. Janelle's journey wasn't easy, but she found strength in her own resilience and the support of her kids. Mary, after years of heartbreak and feeling like an outsider, started to build a life outside the family as well. She invested in her business, traveled, and learned to stand on her own 2 feet. While these women found new beginnings, Kody and Robyn seemed stuck. The unity they fought so hard to create ended up feeling hollow. The joy and connection that once defined the family were gone, replaced by tension and disappointment. The contrast couldn't be clearer. As Christine, Janelle, and Mary grew stronger and happier, Kody and Robyn were left with the reality of a family that had fallen apart and a future that looked nothing like the one they promised each other. The fallout from Kody's choices didn't just break up a marriage, it left scars on his children that will last a lifetime. Savannah and Truly, once surrounded by siblings and the promise of a big, loving family, now carry the weight of being overlooked and left behind. Their stories are a reminder that control and favoritism come at a steep price. The family's dream of unity was replaced by silence, distance, and heartbreak. The kids lost the security they deserved, and the wives had to rebuild from the ground up, finding strength in themselves when the family structure failed them. If there's anything to take from the Brown story, it's that real love means showing up, listening, and putting your children first. No amount of TV spin or religious talk can cover up the pain of being forgotten. As viewers, we owe it to Savannah, Truly, and every kid who's ever felt invisible to keep asking for honesty and accountability. Let's keep this conversation going. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to TLC's Sister Wives News for more real talk and updates. Together we can demand better for families everywhere.